Ladies and gentlemen, kings and queens, thinkers and doers, welcome to this special episode of the G to G podcast. Now, normally, this seat is occupied by this man with opinions strong enough to bend steel and a personality that shakes Johannesburg awake. But today, that game has changed slightly. I am your guest host, Thamsanqa KrTC Sibandza, and the captain of this ship graciously, or maybe recklessly, handed me the keys because this episode, once again, is about him. He's usually the one who's throwing people into the hot seat, but today he sits where others dare not sit. In the last couple of months, the G2G podcast has crossed borders, crossed cultures, and crossed into international territory. And while the cameras were rolling, something else was brewing behind the scenes. There was a shift, a calling, a bold step into leadership. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we're not just speaking to the host, we're speaking to the man who wants to be the next mayor of Johannesburg. This is a man running a self-funded podcast, a self-funded campaign, taking wins and losses, taking punches, clapping back online, and still doubling down on his convictions. So buckle up. Today we unpack the travel stories, the political trenches, the manifesto, the new political party, the fears, the hopes, and the vision for one of Africa's most important cities, Johannesburg. Galston Anthony, welcome to your own podcast, where today we're sitting at the Stop and Shop barbershop, and they've been gracious enough to open their doors and let us chop it up at the chop shop.
Yep, that's where I get my fade. But firstly, you give me so much stress, courtesy. The intro was so good on my own show. I gotta now get a script and just.
That's why you bring me out to this space,
Oh
right?
man, the pressure's heavy. You know what? Let's work on your own show. Let's work on your own show. And you come to South Africa every other week, get a couple, because you do this so good.
Akeem, can we shoot at your shop? Is that okay? Brother, I think let's just dive straight into it. This is a follow-up conversation from the last conversation that we had. And like I said, in between, so much has happened. The first thing is, let's talk about the G2G podcast going international. What brought that about? I mean, that is such a bold. It is headache enough trying to manage a podcast just locally with local guests. But you decided, nah, you're going to pack the bags, you're going to pack the cameras, and you're going to take it international. Where did that drive come from? And we're going to be talking about? What are some of the experiences that you had with that?
Courtesy, when I start something, it always expands. And I'm an entrepreneur, and I can't be in a space where I'm just doing the same thing everybody else does. And not to talk down to any other podcast that is there. We have the biggest podcast, which is Mac G. And he's been in the space long enough to dominate it. And I'm like to myself, you know what? I'm not going to get into a space trying to compete with him because we're not in the same genres. We're not doing the same thing. We don't have the same look. We don't have the same sound.
We don't pay the same taxes. We don't shoot at the same baskets.
You know what I'm saying? We're not in the same tax bracket. So I said to myself, you know what? Let me just try and not only talk to celebrities, let me move over to politicians, presidents. And I was like, you know what? I travel the world. Why not talk to my constituents on the other side? So I took planes in Kenya, particularly Kenya. I'm rather popular there,
Yeah, I saw that. There was actually a lot of warm welcome and reception when you got there.
Oh my goodness. You know what? And that's a big thank you to Sam K. So I got to give him a shout out, particularly to him, because he hosts me. And then for the people that I always want to speak to and don't really know, he's the one that gives them a call. He's the Galston Anthony of South Africa.
Nice.
He just gives them a call. It's like, hey, I want you to sit down with my boy, blah, blah, blah. He gives me his office. I mean, he runs a full-on fledged office, and he's like, you know what? I will vacate it for you. And all the important people come down and sit down with me. Eric Amandi, Jackie Matubia. There's just a lot of people I sat and spoke to in Kenya. And Uganda, Diana Spice and Bobby Wine. And I was really privileged, to speak to Bobby Wine. And I mean, when this comes out, there's an election happening, hoping that he wins. So when he hits presidency, I'm going to be able to sit and talk to him and say, hey, we did this. amongst other countries, Nigeria, I sat down with Ice Prince and a few other countries that I still have plans to go to. So realized that I just wanted to take it and expand it and take it all over Africa. So I'm the only podcaster right now, probably worldwide, but we do know in Africa, that actually travels and talks to everybody, making it a Pan-African podcast, and bringing these people together.
Lovely stuff. And you've kind of just like touched a little bit on some of the people that you had conversations with. But I just want to double click on what are some of the standout conversations for you? What are some of the conversations that perhaps shifted your own perspective or maybe gave you an in-depth understanding not only of the person but also of the space that you were at the time of the conversation?
My favorite podcast that I've done, which I've not had any since I spoke to Bobby Wine.
Yeah.
Woo! Oh man. For those that don't know Bobby Wine, he's now basically the opposition leader to a dictator, we could put it that way. The president has been sitting for nearly 40 years on his seat.
Sure.
There was a little meme that got out. It's like, you know what? I smoked this weed. It was called Museveni. I got so high, I never left my seat. I mean, he's been in it for 40 years. Now, this is not an opportunity to be dissing the president of the Uganda, but I'm just talking about, Bobby Wine. And he's been through a lot in the hands of, the leadership there. He was almost killed. He was beaten several times. He was, electrocuted in the manhood. He's been through a lot. This is a straight up movie. And I'm looking at this man, and I said to him before we started, it's like, make no mistake, I'm going to try and grill you as much as possible. But the man was so charming, man.
Yeah.
I mean, his story was so compelling. I was not as hard on him as I was meant to be.
As he thought you would be.
Right. Because I listened to his story. And, getting in and out of Uganda, the situation is real. I mean, Uganda, you land in the airport, you just see the greenest piece of land, a huge dam. It's beautiful, but the moment you get out and get to Entebbe and get to Kampala, it's a mess. And the reason why it's a mess is simply because of leadership, and he's just trying to fight for that. And most oppositions, for example, Julius Malema, he's fighting for freedom. You go to other oppositions, they fight. Bobby Wine's fighting for his life. He's fighting for people's lives. So it's kind of like, damn, if you think you in South Africa or any country and you have it bad, think about Uganda.
Yeah. Ooh. Okay. So here you are in these spaces having these amazing conversations with some of the most phenomenal people on the continent of Africa. Can you just maybe give me 2 or 3 moments where you felt like, okay, you know what? I'm glad I jumped on the plane. I'm glad I picked my cameras and came here because we're onto something here. And maybe without even mentioning names, this is not a UN commercial. Fly, go away. No, it's fine. Keep the cameras rolling. I just need this fly to know.
Yes, UN commercials like
commercial.
in Africa. The flies have been, the poverty is there.
So yeah, the conversations that had you feeling like we're definitely onto something, but also the conversation that had you feel like, man, this is a waste of my time. Why did I even bother? I don't want you to name names.
I don't want to name names
because we're not trying to, mess up relationships or anything like that.
Yeah.
But did you have moments like that?
Look, Galston Anthony is frank. So I rather be frank with people. So the best conversation that I had, and probably in my top 3, was another one, Eric Amondi, when I flew to Kenya. And Eric Amondi is a comedian turned activist. So what happened with him is that, he saw the injustice that's been happening, the opulence of the presidents are showing, and just saying, hey, look how good we look. Did you see this Rolex watch? Did you know how much the shirt was? It was $1 million for the shirt. And, they started becoming activists. And Kenya being such a strong nation, they decided, we fighting behind him, and not just behind him, like with him. And the time he told me the story, because I did not know it until I actually sat with him, that when there was a flood, the government literally did nothing. They did nothing. Waters were high as roofs. He started hiring boats from a different city, came into the city, saved people on top of roofs.
Wow.
I mean, for me, that was like, okay, I'm a courageous guy. My dad calls me courageous, but
that's a different level.
I mean, that's a different level.
That's a different
level. And
level.
He's a skinny guy. He's supposed to be making jokes on stage, as opposed to me, I'm a little bit more athletic. This man did all that. So I was like, you know what? Having conversations with this and flying over to other countries, gives me that opportunity. The worst person, I don't think I've had a worse conversation, but I've had a conversation that was rather annoying. Andrew Kibe.
I said no, don't mention names. But of course, this is Galston Anthony.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
mean, I gotta be frank. So
Yeah.
Andrew Kibe, I mean, he's they call him the Walmart Andrew Tate, so to put it.
Sure.
I mean, he's got some good points here and there, but he's rather arduous about situations. But I get where he's getting at because sometimes having those conversations where you just want to rage bait people gives you a lot of comments. And in my comment section, there was a lot of rage bait. So hey, I guess it was a win at the end of the day.
All right.
But those are the ones where I'm like, I had the conversation, I enjoyed it, but didn't enjoy it. And this is not a shot at Andrew Kibe in any form, but of just answering that question.
All right. I mean, so personally, I have the privilege of being part of your orbit, but I'm in and out also because of this, that, and the other. We often see the end product in terms of when the episode drops. We see the short clips and we see the views and the numbers, but not a lot of people are privy to the actual on the ground, the nitty gritty, the finer details, the daily operations of what it actually takes and how much it costs to do a podcast like the one that you're doing. So, can you just take us into that space? And especially because this is not a production that you're selling to Netflix or you're selling to SABC, which means there isn't any obvious return on investment, especially monetary. Can you just take us into that space where you're doing it and you're doing it consistently and you're doing it so aggressively? Where does that drive come from? And what does it actually cost to do a production of a podcast like the G2G?
KrTC, I'll tell you something. I've never met a fool like myself. I mean, I look at myself, I'm like, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
This podcast, I guess I started it and hoped for the best or hoped
Sure.
for. I'm not sure what I hoped for, but the idea was to expand it as much as possible. And then it started running expenses on me that was ridiculously high, especially now that, I took the planes to go to different countries. And I mean, I've been to several countries. You got to pay hotels, you got to pay the plane ticket, especially like flying to Uganda. I don't understand how it's $600 to fly to Uganda, right? Every other country's a lot cheaper, even though they're closer.
Africa, we're going to have this conversation. Why is it so expensive to travel in Africa? It actually costs less to travel to Europe than to travel within Africa.
For the
But
love
that's
of
another
goodness,
conversation.
why are we having a visa to Uganda? But hey, Bobby Wine, please become president. We're gonna have that chat about it. And the cost of eating, having your guests over, making sure that they are fed, and all this here in South Africa. A lot of the times I did it at my house. You got to feed the people, and they would have conversations thereafter. I started seeing that for every episode, which I've done now 40 episodes now, it averaged out to $1,000 per episode. That's 18,000, between 17,000 to 18,000 per episode, including the rental of the cameras, you name it. If we move into a new venue like right now, what the case may be, those costs are to be incurred. So I asked myself, it's like, if I'm spending that much, how much am I making in return? Nope, I'm barely making anything. It's tremendous losses. So the idea here was that I didn't mind making the losses for as long as I have the hard conversations. It is important for me to have those conversations because I mean it is true and evident that when I have conversations with people, they're in depth. I poke I poke the bear. It doesn't matter who you are, if you're the president, if you're Musi Maimani, Herman Mashaba, the leader of the MK, it doesn't matter. You get in the smoke, so to put it. But the thing is, it comes from a good place, so it's worth burning my money to do that. So that's why I do it.
So, Galston, out of all the things that I've seen you go for, of all the shots I've seen you shoot, this has to be, even for me, like the most ambitious. You're running for the mayor of the super city of Johannesburg. Where does that idea come from? What is the drive? And now that you're in motion in pursuit of this dream, what are some of the things that you're learning and experiencing, not just only about politics, not only about, the world of Johannesburg, but also about yourself.
Ooh, okay. Why did I run for the city of Johannesburg, and why am I running, as well as what am I learning about myself? Look, I run multiple businesses,
Sure.
and say the past 6, 7 years before even COVID happened, I realized that my businesses are getting a whipping, and it's basically because of the economy. Right? People call it serial economy, but I just don't want to like blame it on him alone, because there were presidents before that also did, the job. Now the problem became is that I'm trying to grow, but it feels like the soil is not fertile anymore. And I'm like to myself, I'm getting really, really upset. I was living in Pretoria at the time, Silver Lakes, which is, an upper class suburb. And we started having load shedding. And then all our electronics started burning, and we had to pay hundreds of thousands for electronics. And we having a lot of potholes. I'm like, this can't be it. Fixing these things are actually easy. So I tweeted one time, um, and I said, Mr. Mzwandile Msima, mayor, please mentor me so I can be the mayor of the city of Pretoria. I forgot about that tweet. This was back in 2018. 2025, August, MK came to me, and they said to me, hey, would like to lobby you into running for the city of Johannesburg. And I'm like, why me? He explained it to me. He's like, you're the only one person that can actually relate throughout the races, throughout the ages, and all sides would actually hear your story out.
Okay.
And he continued to explain. I'm like, I didn't even see it that way. Right? This is me forgetting that 2018 I tweeted this, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, look, but we'd have to talk to, the old man, President Jacob Zuma about
At
it,
the
because he
time,
is
yeah.
not, he does not know about this. We're just trying to lobby you first. And I'm like, sure. And along the way, I'm like, you know what? Let's not do it. And then they chose Bongani Baloyi, who I've sat down with to have an interview with, but I don't think it got to the president. And then what happened thereafter? Before it got there, I gave Herman Mashaba a call of Action SA. I'm like, can we please have a conversation? I had a conversation telling us that, look, man, I've been lobbied by MK, and I'd like to actually run for Action SA because, I actually align more this direction. And he said to me, look, I can actually relate with you because I actually started as a business person. And because I saw the city was in a mess, I decided to run for mayor under the DA. And he's like, you know what? Let me actually have a chat with my peoples. You write me a proposal, send it to me. We have the conversations. 2 weeks later, he didn't respond to it. And I texted him and he's like, yo, actually, we decided to not go with you because my team is not willing to support me. And then a week or two later, no, actually a month later, he sends me a message. He's like, yo, the post is still open. I'm like, come on, man. I was not
Don't be
very
playing
happy
with
with
my
that.
emotions.
Don't play with my emotions.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this on my own. But I sat with one more person, which was Musi Maimani. And, at that time, they just formed United for Change, where it was 3 political parties, which is BOSA, um, Rise, and Good. And he's like, I don't know the other two, Patricia DeLillo and Zongezwa. I've not met them in person. So I said, look, let's have a meeting. I think it took too long. And I'm like, you know what? I'm starting my own party, baby. I'm starting my own. And, I'm going to run under my political party as a candidate, because it's just everybody's complaining. There's so many political parties going on. But the thing is, getting into seats in council, you would have more of an opportunity as a political party than independent. And I decided, you know what? If I want to get it fixed, I don't want to be sitting with the rules of this political party, and I can't go through all the things that I want to do as president, and as mayor. So started my own. So the reason why I started it was actually to fix the city. What did I learn about me?
Yeah.
I'm a madman. I'm a
I've been
madman.
trying to tell you all these years.
I don't. I found out that I'm a madman. I'm quite the cowboy, and the reason why, how I became that cowboy is literally I can't see my businesses suffering. I don't understand if my businesses are suffering and I'm in the better end of businesses, and all of them are struggling. What about the poor people? What are the poor people going through? It's probably things I don't understand and could not experience. And now I'm seeing that all the little entrepreneurs that have ideas stand no chance on getting it right because the soil ain't fertile no more. So I learned that, hey, I got a little bit of compassion that I did not know was there. Not to say I never had it, but I found it, during the process of this journey of running for mayor.
So I'm curious, you're talking about all of these other already established kind of entities, and that you have these touch points with them, and there's an element of maybe, yes, no. You're dating and then you're blue ticking each other. There's, sort of just like that cat and mouse game that happens when people are sort of just like pursuing each other. What is it that made you kind of move away from all of them? Would you say it was their ideologies, their leadership style, or was it just like basic misalignment with what it is that you're trying to do with this position for purpose and not just for power?
Courtesy is a hell of a question, man. So the three political parties that I've been spoken to, the one that least aligns with me is MK. Now, make no mistake, I like President Jacob Zuma despite what people are saying about him. Yes, there are some things I don't align with him, but I could definitely have a sit down with him. No, I've not sat down with him like that before, but we have shook hands or just acknowledged each other rather than shook hands, moved about our business.
Mr. President Zuma, sir, when you find time, please come to the podcast.
He doesn't want to do podcasts. I've been trying to get him here. But, as for Herman Mashaba and Musi Maimane, I'm not too far with alignment with them. The issue here is that it came down to decision making. I was rather disappointed they took some time to do decision making. I understand it's a very big one, but let's be honest, Galston Anthony is a very compelling mayor for the city of Johannesburg. Because if we look at the history in the past, we never quite had someone like Galston Anthony. We actually do need change. Everybody is a lot older. Helen Zillow, who I've got no particular beef with, but she is about 700 years old trying to run for a spot. Let me not be disrespectful. She's 70-something years old, right? Okay. Running for a spot that should be for young people. How is someone like that going to make decisions for people that are young? So I said, you know what? I'm the youngest one there. Let me just go for the spot. So it was not necessarily misalignment, but it was more like I'm just tired of them not understanding. I'm an entrepreneur. So many young people want to be entrepreneurs. That's where my passion is at.
Yeah.
There's so
with the
many.
high unemployment rate, that seems to be the most sensible recourse.
Correct. And I mean, how are you going to employ people without being an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
These politicians run businesses, and that's all they're going to do. Just make sure that one or two businesses are right, put money in their pocket, good to go. And look, I mentioned some names. I'm not accusing them of anything of that sort, but I'm just saying in general, that's how the politicians are. And I just want people to become rich. I just want people to win. That is, if anybody has known me over time, that's what I've been doing. So I just want to scale this out throughout the city.
So here, maybe for the first time, I don't know if you've maybe done it on a different platform, but introduce us to the party that see, me and you go so way back. As soon as I say party, I know we think different context. But introduce us to the political party that you have created and endorsed and put your weight behind. And how does it cut through the clutter? I mean, South Africa is not short of political party logos. So introduce us to the party.
I like that.
Introduce us to the party. And of course, how is it that you're cutting through the clutter and being head and shoulders above everybody else, not just in promises, but also, most importantly, in service delivery?
It's gonna be a rather long answer, but the name of the party is actually premature for me to say it right now, but I'm gonna take a shot and go at it. The name of the party is KYP, short for Know Your Power. It is basically, the Amanda Aweti, the power's ours. Right, it's basically that, but just modernized in the sense to make people understand actually the powers within you.
Absolutely.
You voting for me, you can actually find ways to remove me and make sure you hold me accountable to it. That's number one, know your power. Number two is why wait for politicians to get things done when the power is actually with you? Let's that part is something you got to understand.
Yeah.
But given service deliveries and whatnot, we got to understand getting water, getting the roads fixed, getting electricity. Those are simple jobs. Hire the professionals, get it done. It's no rocket science. But then you ask me, which are the ones that are more rocket science? Oof, there's just so many things. I'll start with PEP. So we know about the BE and everybody gets mad at the BE because it's actually not benefiting the people as it should be.
That's
right. Like black people are still poor with BE 3 years later. However, in theory, it sounds like a good thing. So I decided to come up in my manifesto with something called the PEP, People Empowerment Program, where people are empowered on a voluntary basis. People like you and I that might have, a couple of $100,000 in our banks, we would go to the PEP and say, look, we got some money.
Hey. before people come after me.
Yes, come to him, right? So we would say, look, we're trying to empower people, but we don't know, who to empower, because obviously the people we know,
Yes, sir.
people that
Yes,
are
sir.
DMing us. So we go to the PEP. People at the program would have a lot of people sending in what it is they want to do. Hey, I want to open a spaza shop. I want to start an app and whatever. And we look at it and we say, hey, here are the number of people that we want to, empower. So we choose a person or peoples and we say, boom. Then what happens? We take our money, as little as 100,000. We don't have to look at millions.
Sure.
We
Sure.
empower
Gotta
them,
start. Gotta start somewhere.
you
Very
know,
simple and
right.
reachable. Yeah.
And once we empower them, we either become the mentor of that business or we assign mentors to that business to look at it for it to grow. And as it is growing, when we get to the 6 months period, we say, okay, we've got our money. We take our money back. We should mostly not decide to take profit out of it, make that business stand. Out of that business, we've empowered a business, and that business has employed 3, 5, 10, 100 people, whatever the case may be. That is empowerment, and repeat that process over and over. Now, that is better than BEE because it's now more voluntarily and people are actually willing to do so. Now, the question becomes, is it black people that just do it for black people? No, everybody's invited. Look at Indians, look at white people. And I can tell you now that white people do want to get involved. They just distance from the locations. They do want to get involved. So what happens? The PEP program helps them to get closer to that. So those are on a voluntary basis. And I do think it is a good alternative to BE without nullifying it.
All right.
There's so many programs. Oof, you want me to go at it?
We don't have the time today, but I do want us to have a follow-up conversation a couple of weeks from now. But today I just want us to sort of just like lay the foundation in terms of just understanding your story, your purpose, your compass, and your drive. Speaking of your compass, your campaign tagline is "Make Johannesburg Gold Again."
You got to finish with yay, yay.
I looked at that and I said, what a compelling undertaking. It is such a lovely tag. Then the question that popped up in my head was this. I remember I was watching the BET Awards and Lecrae came out of there and he did this very moving spoken word poetry. When Donald Trump was campaigning with Make America Great Again. And the question that Lecrae asked was, when was America great again? And then he started to break down, was it during slavery? Was it, and then he sort of just like went through the different timelines of, the American history. So I want to throw that at you. When you say make Johannesburg great again, which window in the storied history of the city are you looking at, or are you borrowing the great moments from the different eras? Because there's before 94, there's post 94. You've just spoken about the BE era. Are we talking about in the modern day? So when we say make Johannesburg great again, which era in the history of the Johannesburg timeline are we talking about?
Well, firstly, Johannesburg is still great. And number one. Number two, it's make Johannesburg gold again.
Gold again. Sorry.
Make Johannesburg gold again. So Johannesburg used to have mines, right? And the city is actually called Egoli, right? So it's just basically saying it was once a city that the whole Africa dreamt about going to. And because of that gold, Johannesburg has the 5th largest GDP in all of Africa. Not the cities as a country. So Johannesburg is richer than every single country in Africa, except South Africa itself, Nigeria, Morocco, and Kenya. On Egypt, right? It's got the same GDP as Kenya. Can you understand that the powerhouse of East Africa and a city have the same GDP? Now, the thing is, Kenya's GDP was much lower, right? And it just came up, meaning that Johannesburg, not necessarily fallen off, but it's stagnated. So what we need to do is try to make sure that Johannesburg becomes gold again. This is why I said at some point that the soil is not fertile no more. So we got to fertilize that soil. And there's so many things that we got to fix. Now you're asking, at what point was Johannesburg gold? We started mines. There was a gold rush. Whether that was before or after apartheid or the bad times, good times, it doesn't matter. We're speaking from an economical standpoint that Johannesburg was a great city pre, post, during apartheid. It was
Yeah,
great,
doesn't
right?
matter which timeline you go to, but there was this consistency.
Correct. And
Yeah.
even though it has kind of fallen off, it's still the greatest city in all of Africa. So just making it have that shiny, glossy gold again, that's my mission.
Whew. Love it. Thank you for breaking that down. Now, again, I'm close enough. I'm Icarus. I'm flying close enough to the sun to be aware of a number of things that are happening behind the scenes. Where does Peter and Nota feature in in this endeavor, in this this big, hairy, audacious goal that you are shooting for? Where do they feature, and are you insistent on surrounding yourself with people that are just like you, people who are constantly pushing the envelope, people who are constantly uh, challenging the status quo, people who are constantly who I can define as disruptors? Where do they fit in to your plan, and why them?
Well, firstly, they're not like us. They're nothing like me. Let's just start there. Peter Kriel and Nota are nothing like me. So, in my political party, now that it exists, what happens is that I can assign people to run for mayors in different parts of the land, right?
Sure.
So, which is an invitation to anybody that is capable to run as mayor. Please let me know. So, for national government, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna focus on 3 cities, right? And those 3 cities is the city of Tshwane, which I've got heavy constituency, city of Johannesburg, and city of Ekurhuleni. So I gave Peiter Kriel a call. I said, "Hey, how about we sit and talk? You can run
Yeah.
for mayor of the city of Tshwane, in our behalf." That conversation didn't go according to plan because I was really surprised after I did my podcast with him and we had a good conversation. It seemed that the young man decided to grow a really big ego. I think he enjoys the fact that people are giving him attention that he needs and earned and all. And I'm not mad
Sure.
at that, but I think it kind of messed with his head. And I'm not mad at it because he's a young dude. I mean, back when I was 21, my head was hot.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
20 years ago. My head was hot and I didn't really want to listen to anybody. And he was like, "Look, I don't want to orbit around you." He felt like he needs to be the man in my political party. So I put in the work, right? And he's like, "And I want to write the Constitution with you as a founding member." I'm like, "Peter, come on, man. I mean, you can't just walk in here and decide to have that equity. I understand, but it's you actually very left, and I'm not very left. I'm just trying to bring people together to make sure that we have this unity as a whole. I don't have this black, white, young, old thing. I wanted
yeah.
to show South Africa that we're sitting together." And he was basically gave me the aura that I'm too big for you.
Okay, fair
I'm
enough.
like, "Okay, I'll keep my millions. You
Yep.
keep your fame." And then I gave Nota a call. I said, "Nota, your crazy self. Can I assign you as the mayor of the city of Ekurhuleni?" 2 days later, he responds to me, giving me a call, really angry. And I won't tell you what the conversation was about. And he says, "And that motivates me to run for the city of Ekurhuleni, and I will be the mayor." So I guess this is an announcement before he did the announcement, but he's going to be running under KYP, under my leadership for the city of Ekurhuleni. And this is the announcement, but I wanted him to do it, but this is the announcement.
Wow. Okay. It's just for me. It sounds like, I mean, if Peter had jumped on board, it would have been the Avengers of modern day politics that are all about shifting the status quo. It would have been so lovely to see
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
you got the three of you guys joining forces, just from the space of what it is that you guys already do and what it is that you guys stand for. I feel like the three of you would have had massive success in shifting the needle, if nothing else, in just shifting the needle and driving new conversations, and also not just new conversations, but also what is possible. I want us to go back to the manifesto, just for somebody who's following the conversation, so that now you have put your cards on the table. you have put yourself in a position where we, the people, Tinabantu, we now have the opportunity to hold you accountable. So let's go back to the manifesto. Again, just double click on the PEP program. I want it from this 3 levels. Break it down. What is the problem that you're solving? How does this help the everyday Johannesburg hustler like myself?
Well, your hustle's on a different level, right? So you're not particularly the target market per se as a beneficiary.
Okay.
You, the trustee, you, the donor, so to put it, right? Whatever funds we have, even 100,000 might be a little too much. Let's just get a couple of thousands, put it there into to say, look, you've got access to this money. You don't have to give it to us.
Yeah.
You could be sitting on you. You just say that you're
Yeah.
pledging yourself to make sure that you be part of this, thing. The next person who's got an idea that is small, he wants to set up something real small and make a couple of dollars for himself to survive and feed his family. He benefits instantly, taking away red tape. I mean, do you know in the government how much red tape you got to go through?
Yep.
I could tell you now, as somebody who's been in the game for 21 years, it is rare occasions. I've never had a sponsor from government. I've never had a sponsor from corporate. I've never had a sponsor from because the red tape is intense. And I'm like, you know what? That is part of that is a part of the problem. But I do want to actually double click on other things because there are certain people that I want to hire into my let's put it like as cabinet, right? So as a mayor, you are the one that hires the MMCs. Now, I haven't figured who I'm hiring, ultimately, all of them as the MMCs, but I do know who I'd like to have as advisors. For example, the economical development side, right? I will assign somebody, but under that assignment, I'd like to have people like Vusi Tembekwayo, being there sitting as one of the chairperson. Even ex-president Thabo Mbeki, I want to bring him there. Now, someone might ask, why would you want to take somebody from that lofty level?
Who's reached the highest political office in the land, and you want to bring him,
Right,
there.
right. So most people think that wouldn't make sense. It does because we're in a crisis. We're at a time where South Africa has fallen off so bad. We need the people that know how to get it right to actually come and fix it. So if President Thabo Mbeki can come down and have a chat with me and have a sit with me, not just only on my podcast, but to say that, hey, if I sit on that seat, he would pledge himself as one of the chairpersons of advisors to help with that. Please do. People like Grunewald or General Mkwanazi. I put a post. I put a post and said, look, I'd like General Mkwanazi to actually sit as the head of police. People's like, oh, how can you demote him from being KZN commissioner down to Metro Police? I'm like, look, you're not understanding what I'm trying to do. Firstly, you fixed Johannesburg, you fixed half of the country. I mean, Johannesburg has the GDP, half the GDP of the entire
you broke
country.
it down so well, yeah.
Right. So he would have ultimate authority that he does not have to report to anybody. He could just gets it done. I'd like a gender relations desk open. So, like I mentioned in the video, I don't want the Metro Police to be a bunch of traffic cops with guns. I want them to have an actual station where actual reports are being made at their desks and the stats are being taken as well. Putting ward councillors responsible of their wards and having deputy wards or social workers to help them work there as well. General Mkwanazi knows how to handle that very, very well. And so I'd like to have him as head as well. If not, say Grunewald. Grunewald understands that, hey, he's a no-nonsense guy. He sits on the way right side. I'm happy to work with almost any political party, but at the chairperson level, except with General Mkwanazi, where I want him as an MMC, so to put it, the head of safety. So yes, the idea here is to actually get things done. But I sit in a position that if I get things done, I put my own life in danger, but it's worth it.
Whew, you're sort of just like preempting that conversation, but I'm gonna put it on ice for now because I do want us to double click on that later on. But as you were talking, I'm actually reminded by something that the great poet Common Sense says in one of the songs. He says, "No one person can do greatness individually." And then he says, we actually need the wisdom of the elders and the young people's energy. And from what you just broke down, I feel like that's exactly what you're talking about, to say, hey, let's bring in the wisdom of the people who have the receipts and the track record of getting things done. But then let's put them into the space where there is a need for the people that get things done, and put them there, give them the authority and the power to actually get things done, because unfortunately, most of the time, that's where the cap is. All right, back to the manifesto. Foreign healthcare. What is broken, first and foremost, and what becomes possible under your leadership?
So the complaint in South Africa is a whole bunch of foreigners are influxing legally and illegally, and they're stressing the system of Johannesburg's hospital, let alone, the country. That is true. Now, our taxpayers, which is us, is paying for the foreigners who are not paying their tax to get all those benefits, and sometimes to the disadvantage of, a lot of times to disadvantage of South Africans. So I'm like, guys, it takes no genius. I took a calculation and said we'll spend between 200 and 300 million of probably the profits that we get from wherever, probably Joburg market or someplace. The Joburg market makes a billion.
Yeah.
Right? A billion rands. And take that and build a hospital over a couple of years. Now, what happens is that what I want to do is that actually split it in three ownerships, right? So private ownership, 33%, government, 33%, and also international ownership, 33%. Then what happens with that is that we take employment at 70-30, making the employment of 30% to the international or non-South Africans, and then, South Africans having a 70% employment. We're talking about thousands of employments almost instantly. And then what would happen is that instead of giving one big firm to make sure that they built the entire thing and catch that monopoly all over again and capture, what we do is making sure that we get an experienced group of people to build, right? Different versions of them, and make sure that a lot of small SMMEs are involved. They are involved. Yes, they would have to go through the BE process, and that's more of a national problem. But I'd make sure myself that I have multiple businesses involved and they have a stake. And they're making sure that a lot of employments happen. Yes, after the building is done, that employment is gone, but at least a few people are enriched. But permanently speaking, people will have jobs. Now, what happens is that how do we maintain that hospital? Is it through taxpayers' money? No. What happens is that we ask the peoples that if you'd like to have your services, pay a funeral cover or a medical aid type of scheme set up to say, look, pay 500-600 rand, whatever it is per month per person. And if you'd like to add a family, you add a couple of hundreds, and making sure that a lot of people pay into the system so that if anyone gets sick, you are medicated, you have the medicine, you're not stressing the system. Actually, the hospital is making profits to maintain itself, and that tax money goes right back into the city. That's what I would do. The crazy part is, how did nobody think about that? Because it takes no genius to get that done.
Okay.
So yes, it's to alleviate Johannesburg of its stress and make tons of profit.
We cannot talk about the position or the purpose of leadership in today's social environment without double clicking on the scourge of gender-based violence. I know you kind of just like touched on it a little bit, but I really just want you to sit on that for a bit. What in your manifesto is perhaps the best approach, maybe approach that has been done, but that just has not been given enough time to sort of just like take effect, or maybe an approach that hasn't been done yet. From where I sit, for instance, having worked with the United Nations on a number of programs, including the Safeguard Young People program, which is in the Eastern Southern Africa region, a lot of the times when you get to these spaces and you're having conversations, whether it's on multiple concurrent sexual partners, on whether it's on gender-based violence, on whether it's on condom uptake, there is the common thread is mindset adjustment of the person or the people that are actually experiencing, or the ones that are perpetrating that particular social ill. From where you were sitting and running for the mayor of Johannesburg, how do you intend on addressing the issues around gender-based violence?
Woo! Gender-based violence is a very, very tricky situation, right? Because in South Africa, it is recorded that is the gender capital of the world. FYI, it is not the gender capital of the world. A lot of African countries go through a lot worse. They're just not recording it. It's amazing how South Africa takes statistics, right?
Yeah.
And then what happened is that, the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, said that it is a national crisis, and all the women were like, yay. And I was like, NGOs are going to be making money now, and, it's going back to the people's pockets again, and no actual problem will be solved. And now this is not an opportunity to talk down to the president of South Africa. I'm not that kind of disrespectful person. I'm just, laying out the facts that are there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? Having General Mkwanazi, who's iron-fisted, as I mentioned, to be in those positions to make sure that these things are handled right there and there,
Yeah.
right? But also making sure that we make the catchments a lot smaller. I mentioned having the work counselors and social workers within those catchments and dealing with the situations. But the most important part for me here, which I haven't quite figured out and I'm trying to get it together, is that is a small proportion of men messing up a large proportion of women. This is something people don't understand. People think it's one man, one woman violence. It's not the case. One man is doing 3 crimes a day. He's going out there abusing one woman after the other woman and after the other woman. And then you and I have to sit with that egg on our face because it's like we fear you because you happen to have the characteristics and, the look of a man. So
Yeah.
you are fearful. So I can speak to some women that's like, no, I can't walk around, especially in South Africa. It's like, hey, man, we're going to the restaurant. So I'm like, but this is South Africa. I'm like, it's time we sit and talk to men.
Okay.
Number one, I'd like to have workshops where we have a conversation as a man and say, hey, here are things you do not do, right? You may have not been accused before. You do not do this. Number two, if you find men doing these things, don't be like, hey, ain't my problem. You know what I'm saying? Hey, it's got nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
Act. If you fear for your life acting, I understand, but make sure you do the correct reports to act. Because what happens is that person might not be damaging somebody you know.
Yeah.
But women are a cornerstone of society. Damage her, you're damaging society
There's
at
a
large.
ripple effect. Yep.
It's a ripple effect. It's not like the other way around. You damage a man, you take that man out. It's over for that guy.
Yeah.
But with women, it actually affects a lot more people. So the protection of women should be actually defending them from men before it even gets to women. So if you see an abuse or you see an abuse is about to happen, act. Right? I've seen people just do nothing. But then there's also the flip side because a lot of women start problems that they should not start. I did not say so, therefore they should be abused. Please, for the love of goodness.
Yeah.
That's
Don't-
not what
don't
I
fill
said.
in the blanks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
fill in the blanks. As I know the comment section. Yeah, you see these people like you are red flags. No, stop that. Just saying, look, ladies, we would also have to have workshops on you on how to make sure that we have this gender relations well balanced. Yes, we live in a society where both sides are really messed up. And unfortunately, the men are physically stronger, making the most damage in that regard. So we just try to find ways to make sure that's contained. So there are no particular promises per se in that regard. But what I can tell you is that on my first year in office, I'd want to see a 10% decrease in Johannesburg. Boy, if I don't hit that 10% on my 5 years, I'd feel like a disappointment. So that is something that I'm definitely, using your words, double clicking on.
All right. No, great stuff. And, I love the way that you're breaking it down, also holding everybody accountable because it's not just one side of the fence. And actually, and from where I sit, that is perhaps my own personal gripe is the fact that the lines have been drawn in the sand where we have assigned gender to a human character flaw.
Right.
Violence is a human character flaw, but we have assigned gender to it. And the longer we treat it from one angle and not the other, that is why a lot of the campaigns and a lot of the attempts are failing dismally because we are only looking at it from one side instead of, like you're saying, let's get everybody into the conversation and have real practical and pragmatic solutions for this issue.
Can I actually say something on that? Reason why I interrupted you was because we live in a time where politics is just about optics, right? We're making sure that we will give 5 billion to and we will. And the thing is, to be honest, they actually just redirecting it back to their own pocket, right? So again, I'm not funded by anybody. This is my own money. I'm stupid enough to get broke in this whole process, right? I'm that guy. The thing is, I don't want to talk for the sake of getting votes, to have the favor of certain people, get those votes and actually disappoint them. I'm saying these words that if it doesn't sit with you well or it didn't tickle your fancy, just know that my word is bond. I'm actually intending to deliver on that.
Yeah.
And the problem is that if maybe some of the political parties look at me as like, this boy might be a threat to our income, right? Let's try and disrupt him. If he gets into office and we decide in council that will be in office, let's make it difficult for him. Let's make life difficult for him to show him that he's not different from any of these other people or any of us. So who does he think he is to make sure he wants to change things? I say to the people, I need you to be behind my back as hard as possible and actually walk with me in this journey because I really do want to change.
Shout out to Dr. Bake Dlamini, who's hosting men's conferences all over South Africa. Shout out to Titi Mba and the Amataima men's movement. These are brothers that I already know that are on the ground. And like you said, they're acting. They're actually doing something about it. They're not waiting for the government or government funding. They're not sitting around and waiting, and they're actually on the ground doing something about it. Now, you mentioned in one of our offline conversations a tech app as part of the manifesto, and obviously we're in 2025. We cannot live life outside some form of tech support in whatever endeavor we're going through. Is this like a service delivery app? Is it a safety app? Is it a government app? What does that look like, and how does it actually assist in the delivery of your promises?
Look, let's not call it promises. My intentions, right?
Your
Promises
intention.
can be broken.
Thank you for that correction.
Now, we have TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and all, and these have their own concept of how they run the stuff. What bothers me about Africans, and I want us, especially Black people, to take responsibility of this, we have a lot of ways to bring our culture onto it and not make any money of it and actually use even our own culture against us. Like, for example, and I know they're going to be mad at me about this, baddies, over-sexualizing pictures out of their over-sexualized videos, and they get their followers, and then you have people in their DMs, and there's a phrase called selling bums. That's all they do, right? And as a Black people, that is part of what is destroying us, but we're making money out of it. Now, the app that I'd like to build is having maybe 20 or so people come together, right? And say, we're going to build an app and we're going to build this on a concept. The concept is, instead of making China, the United States, or any other tech app money, why don't we build our own for Africans by Africans? Make sure that it rewards innovation. It rewards things that are positive, because you go onto the social media now. If we speaking something constructive, you're gonna get 5 views. But let me say something bad about you. Let me say something, man,
Gossip,
5 million views.
latest scoop, and all of that. Yeah.
Right. So those apps reward bad behavior, and who are good at giving bad behavior? Us Black people. So having our own app to make sure that we build within ourselves is so much more better, to make sure that people sit down and we profit out of it. Start with Johannesburg. Cape Town is the tech capital of South Africa. We make sure it starts in Johannesburg. Then we try to get branches in Cape Town. There's a tech hub being Kenya, Nairobi. Have that there and start moving around the continent and make it an African tech app that we all look at. So we can go through first our tech app, then we look at TikTok, then we look at Instagram, then we look at the others. I'm not saying that those are bad in the sense that I'm just saying we are the bad ones on those. And we got to change that.
Oof. I mean, again, just being somebody who stays in the space of human behavior change and social development. I remember just going through a particular video, and they were just breaking down how, for instance, China, where TikTok comes from, they have something like that in place, where the algorithm for the citizens, especially the youth in that space, is constantly pushing youth that are doing social development, youth that are achieving in mathematics and math competitions,
Absolutely.
and doing great in karate, and in terms of just like their tradition and
KrTC,
culture.
how stupid are we?
You know what I mean?
How stupid are we that what you're explaining is that they're going through all these innovations and they're getting rewarded some good money. And then we on TikTok,
while we're busy with dance challenges, and while we're busy
correct.
with pranks on parents and on each other,
Oh no, I like that though.
Prank your parents. But the other side of the world is actually using that exact same space, one, to maintain and sustain their integrity as a people, also to amplify and multiply their values, and then more importantly, rewarding that good behavior, the good behavior that is not going to impact them negatively 5, 10, 15 years from now. So I'm just saying that to say that it is possible. It is possible. It just takes, like you said, intention, but it also takes a collective
Shift of culture.
shift of culture, and us just coming together and saying, you know what? As for me and my house, which in this case is Johannesburg, we're definitely not. We're refusing for things to remain the same. Speaking of refusing for things to remain the same, the CBD cleanup and the hijacked buildings. Where do you stand on that?
Damn, you asking me a lot of questions. Okay. See, this is where General Kwanazi comes in. Start a SWAT team, tactical team. We'll make sure that we go in there and take those buildings back.
Okay.
But what about the people that stay there? We'll find a way to get them a place someplace else. We taking that buildings, that's that. Taking those buildings back. Our CBD is supposed to be our crown of the entire city, right? Why does our CBD look like a dumpster? There are townships that are much poorer than the CBD that look better than the CBD. There's villages, okay, villages are always clean, but the CBD is literally the dirtiest place in the entire country. Swat it out. They're going to be mad at me. Don't worry, I'll go deal with it in court over the next 5 years, but as long as I get it right while being in mayor, we get it right, have people that can actually live in the city and not worry about violence. Have people think about you and I. Why are we going to live in Sandton while we're here? Why can't we live right in the city? What about the tourists? When they fly in, they fly over the city like, wow, that's 116 skyscrapers. We didn't know Johannesburg looked like this. You don't see tourists going into the CBD. They feel it's too dangerous. And when they do, it smells like this bad wolf in the air. You see papers, taxi drivers, chaos going in there. Before taxi drivers get mad at me, it's chaotic, right? Just to try and create order back into that city. SWAT it.
And the understanding that when the status quo of the city changes, so does the economic possibilities for everyone. And I think that's the most important thing that we all just need to understand. And you touched on it earlier. I said, let's park it, let's bring it back, because you also just alluded to it now. You were shooting for an office where we have seen other people being threatened, others maybe even, losing their lives to the cause. Is this the hill that you're willing to die on? Because you are literally pushing up against the status quo. Like you said, you're pushing up against systems that have been put into place over so many years, where the select few are benefiting from the way things are right now, and any kind of disruption is might not be met with kindness. Why would you want to do that, where you're putting yourself in a position that is dangerous to the point that it could be a threat to your life?
KrTC, this is not a hill that I'm going to die on. This is a hill I'm climbing to die for. I will go up to the mafias and gangsters and sit with them as I'm sitting with you. It's like, you've got two choices. I'd act like nothing happened in the past, and we fix this city, and we make sure the city profits. If not, you better make sure you put a bullet in me now, because I will come for you if I do see a mess. Am I willing to die for it? Oh, absolutely. I've lived a really great life. I've really done all the things that I wanted to do, and I'm willing to keep fighting for that. So yeah, I'm willing to fight to the ends of the earth for the city to be good. Your kids don't have a future here, KrTC. Nobody. People watching this don't stand a chance of having a future. Why don't I create it for them? Even if it costs me my life. And besides, when you die, you become the Tupac. You live forever. So at least that's going to be my legacy. So in that case, am I willing to do this in terms of protecting myself? We're already started. Thank goodness I got constituents in countries and ways in protection in ways people don't realize. There are some political parties actually protecting me as is, making sure that they're not supporting me, but they're protecting me. But hey, I want to make sure this gets done. This is my city. This is my country. I got to make sure that I serve it through and through.
All right. That was very compelling and sounded like it came from the heart. But speaking of war zones, you have decided to make social media your personal war zone. I'm curious. You're always ready and willing to clap back. Why do you clap back so much? Why don't you just let some of these things fly? Do you perhaps feel like do you not think that some of these engagements and clapping back might hurt your campaign? Yeah, let's talk about that.
That's a really good question. Do I think it will hurt my campaign? I'm not a celebrity. All right. I'm not a celebrity. I'm just, yo, corporate. I need them to pay me to make. Look, man, I've been trying my whole life trying to get money from corporate. They never gave me a dime. So I'm not going to start now trying to be docile so that I can get some money. I'm going to do what I have to do. But why am I clapping back is, I'm going to give you a little history. Sounding like this throughout high school and throughout some parts of my primary school like this was really, really difficult for me because, everybody's, hey, American, hey, American. I was always dissed. It's like, you like to speak English. And it was not nice to hear because, can't I just live? I'm not out here listening to myself, and hear what I sound like. And people stop listening to what I stop listening to what I say and figure, stuck on what I sound like. I didn't enjoy that very much. And it really hit me on the inside. It really messed with my identity. It really messed with who I am. Then I got to a place and point, be like, man, these guys want to be me. These jamokes are acting like I'm having a problem. They're mad because I'm eloquent, right? They're mad because I am me. So why am I losing my dignity so that you could smile, so you can have a spectacle and a laughter? Hell no. I'm taking your dignity if you're coming for mine. And social media being a perfect breed for keyboard warrior sensations, right? They will say some things. I'm like, hey, your dignity is going before mine. I'm not going to let it go. So make people understand that I'm not here for games. Focus on what I'm trying to say. Focus on what I'm doing and help me because I'm here to lead you with you. Yes. All right? I'm not here to go loot your money and steal your money. No. I'm here to make sure that things are better, but I need your help. So if you're going to come back at me to try and take my livelihood, I'm taking yours.
It ain't happening.
Relentlessly.
Not on my watch.
Yeah.
And you're speaking about you're trying to create environments where I can make money, you can make money, we can all make money and let it circulate. You decided to put all of those thoughts because you have a lot of thoughts and opinions and ideas. You decided to immortalize them in paper form and you wrote a book, Capital Ubuntu. Can you just sort of like double click on that and give us the heartbeat of the book?
Capitalist Ubuntu is an ethos and it is an individual, so it's personified. Now, capitalist Ubuntu is basically saying Africans, we had trade, we had ideologies, and we had ways of doing things. External things came in, changed all that. But now you need to understand what those things are. We cover Marxism. Yeah. There are leftist parties that are so Marxist, they speak all these wonderful things coming from Karl Marx, but they're rejecting the notion of the West. They're like, the Western people have done it, but Karl Marx is from the West. So they're taking one ideology and rejecting the other one, right? But the thing is, something about Marxism and Ubuntu sound alike. So people actually subscribe to Marxism because it speaks to them as Ubuntu, because Ubuntu means I am because we are. And somehow those two kind of speak to each other. So it seems that our Black people have decided to take Marxism because it sounds the same, but I'm saying no, stick to Ubuntu. Marxism, let it stay to European. Funny enough that Karl Marx called Black people, or Africans specifically, primitive creatures. People don't know that part. Now, what about capitalism? It's known to be evil coming in from the West. I say, look, capitalism has always been there, right? But we did it in an Ubuntu style. There was so many trades that was happening throughout Africa, right? Make successful trades for that matter. But a good example is Lobola. When my daughter, for example, is getting married, I would take 10, 20 cows to your family and say, hey, This is the bride price of that daughter. I've just empowered your family. Now you have sons that want to marry into a different. You would have made 25, 30 cows by the time that your daughter is ready. You keep your 20 cows, you keep your 10 cows, and you send those 20 cows someplace else to continue doing the same thing over and over. Is that not capitalism? But is not Ubuntu involved? Now, the ethos of capitalist Ubuntu is saying we understand the West and maybe even the East have come in with the imperialism. We cannot remove it. It is what it is. But let's not forget that we can still use that as continuing the voluntary heart that we have as a heartbeat to continue serving each other. This includes white people too, because the white Afrikaners that are here, they belong to the swell of Africa. They have to practice capitalist Ubuntu. We do not separate each other anymore. We become one people, irrespective of color and diversity. Now, it sounds like a dream, but read the book. It will give you the entire explanation.
Brilliant. Any timelines? When can we expect it to drop? Do you have any idea?
February, it will be with people. I don't know what stores it's going to be in. We still haven't had discussion, but yes, it will be available for order. And maybe the first 100 people, I'll deliver it to your house. Like, here you go.
Galston, finally, I just need you to, once again, speak to the camera. Not as a politician, not as a businessman, but as a man in terms of your hope and your wish and your intentions for the city of Johannesburg. And what is it that you will love the legacy of Galston Anthony to be?
City of Johannesburg, continent of Africa. I do not like it when he does this because it puts me in such a hard position. I never prepared for this because he doesn't tell me the question beforehand. But I give this body, soul, mind, and heart to serving the people. Why? Because I'm a madman. And a madman needs to deliver what madman has to do. But because it's out of love, putting myself to sacrifice instead of just growing my businesses and taking and just going on about my life, I decided that, sure, I might win, I might not win, I do not know. But I'm doing this for the sake of generations thereafter. I've lived a good life for the most part. I've had a terrible part. But now I've got a lot of knowledge, wisdom, experience to bring to the table. I just want you to join me in carrying those things out. The timelines that he speaks of is 5 years. You vote me in 1 year from now, November 2026. You have to keep me responsible. You got to make sure you sit on me. Please don't be that Twitter warrior type of nonsense. Please, I'm not going to take kindly to it. I'm saying make sure you push me from behind. And wherever I fall, please lift me up and remind me who I am and these very words that I say now. Because I want to do this so bad for you, far more than it is for me.
Maybe we do need a madman in these crazy times, because sometimes that's exactly what it takes and who it takes. G2G family, today we met the man behind the mic, behind the mission, and the man behind the movement. One thing is for sure. Leadership is not neat. It's messy. Leadership is uncomfortable. It is costly. But also, leadership is necessary. Now, whether you agree with Galston or not, whether you support his candidacy or you're still on the fence in deciding, one thing is clear. Galston Anthony is somebody who's stepping into the arena when it is easier to just sit on the sidelines. He's jumping into the arena when it is easier to just sit in the stands. And in a city that is hungry for change, that is hungry for courage, that is hungry for ideas and integrity, that has to count for something. So from the G2G podcast, from our entire team, and on behalf of the man in the hot seat, thank you for tuning in. My name is Thamsanqa Sibandza, your guest host for today, saying stay safe, stay sharp, stay guided. We out.
Peace out. And I want to say I want my name to be Galston Anthony. The best to ever do it.
Just so that you can have a click in it.
Yeah.
All right, peace, man.